You are waiting for proof that you're that man, and the proof is waiting for you to decide that deadlock is eating your life. So one question before we break it open: are you the man who decided, or the man still waiting to feel ready? Be honest, because one of them has been running your life, and it isn't the one you think. Look at how you actually operate. You'll act confident once you feel confident. You'll build once you feel ready. You'll claim the identity once you have the evidence for it. And the feeling never arrives. The readiness never arrives. The evidence never arrives. Because all three of them are downstream of the decision you keep refusing to make. So today I'm going to show you the loop that runs every human life, prove that yours was installed backwards, and teach you the inversion. 5 moves. From the file that's been sentencing you to the day, the world itself starts manufacturing evidence for your decision. And that last part is the strangest, because there's a famous experiment proving the world really does this, and it will unsettle you. Stay to the end. That's where the machine turns in your favor. Now, remember where the last video left you. We proved that arguments can't change minds, because identity guards belief, because a man defends who he is with everything he has. You saw it as the reason your opponent's door locks. Turn the same lock around. If identity guards belief with that much force, then the man who chooses his identity first, deliberately, has just hired the strongest force in human psychology as the bodyguard of his own becoming. The lock that keeps other men stuck is the exact lock that can hold you on course. Same mechanism, it just matters who installed it. Machiavelli studied the greatest founders in history, the men who built states out of nothing. And he noticed the thing everyone misses. Fortune, he wrote, gave them nothing but the occasion. The moment, the raw material, the opening. Everything else came from virtue, the decided character the man brought to the occasion. The opening without the man is just wind. And here's what that means for you, sitting there waiting. The occasions have been arriving your whole life, and they keep finding the undecided version of you, and wind passes through an empty room. The decision is what gives fortune something to push on. And let me kill one thing before we start, because this channel doesn't sell magic. This is not manifestation. You will not think yourself into a new life while sitting still. The decision I'm teaching obligates behavior from the first hour, and the feeling is optional forever. Cold mechanics, start to finish, that's the whole point. So before the first move, drop 3 words in the comments. I decided first. Past tense. Because by the end of this video it will be, Victor said I'm not a morning person for 20 years. Said it like a blood type. Then the job changed, and 6 in the morning was the only hour left. So he took it, hating it, certain it wouldn't hold. 90 days later, he caught himself defending the habit to a friend. His body never changed. The evidence showed up after the behavior, which is exactly backwards from everything he'd spent his life waiting for. That's the loop. And we open it first. Move 1. See the loop you're running, because you can't invert a machine you've never looked at. Here's the loop as you run it now. Evidence, then belief, then identity, then action. Show me proof I'm capable, then I'll believe I'm capable, then I'll see myself as a capable man, then I'll act like one. It sounds rational. It sounds humble. Every school teacher and every cautious relative would nod along. And it's a deadlock. Because look at where evidence actually comes from. Evidence comes from action. Results come from reps. The proof you're waiting for can only be manufactured by the acting man, and you've scheduled the acting for after the proof arrives. You're standing at the harvest, waiting for the field to show you crops before you'll agree to plant it. Watch this loop run in your actual life. You don't speak up in the meeting, because you're not sure you're the guy whose ideas carry, and because you never speak, no idea of yours has ever carried, which confirms you're not the guy. You don't start the business because you've never proven you can run one, and you never prove it because you never start. You don't approach, don't ask, don't claim, don't build. Each time citing a missing file of evidence that your own non-action is what keeps empty. The loop doesn't just fail to move you, it actively manufactures proof of the old you every single day and files it. Here's the mechanism underneath, and it's the part that stings. The backward loop feels safe because it can never be wrong. If you never act until certain, you never fail publicly, and the loop sells you that safety every morning. But run the ledger honestly. The loop's price is that you also never become anything you aren't already, and it collects that price silently in years. The man running evidence first isn't being rational. He's bought lifetime insurance against embarrassment and paid for it with his becoming. And here's the proof you already own that the loop is a lie. Every single skill you have arrived before the feeling did. You learned to drive terrified, hands at 10 and 2, certain you'd hit something, and the confidence showed up 200 trips later as a receipt. You started every job you've ever held, feeling like a fraud in someone else's chair, and competence arrived on schedule months after you did. Not once in your entire life has the feeling gone first. Not once has readiness preceded the reps. Your own history is a stack of evidence that evidence comes second, and the backward loop survives in you anyway, because it never asks you to check. So here's the first directive: pure observation, no action yet. Tonight, name your 3 biggest waiting rooms, the 3 identities you've been postponing until the evidence arrives. The builder, the leader, the disciplined man, the one who asks. Write them down, and next to each, write how long you've been waiting. The numbers will be years. Look at them. That's the loop's invoice. And you've been paying it without ever once seeing the bill. But before you can invert the loop, you have to meet the thing that built it. Because somebody compiled that file of evidence you keep consulting, and it wasn't you. Move 2. Open the file. Because here's what you're actually consulting every time you ask: am I the kind of man who could do this? You're not reasoning. You're reading a file, compiled years ago, by people who weren't building you, and circumstances that weren't asking your permission. The verdicts of childhood: you're the shy one, he's not a leader, don't get ahead of yourself. The failures of a 20-year-old you'd never even hire today, still sitting in the record as final rulings. The labels your family assigned by lottery, the roles your first workplaces stamped on you, the one humiliation that got promoted to permanent policy. That file is your self-image, and you treat it like a courtroom that already ruled, when it's actually just a drawer of old newspapers. Here's the mechanism, and get this precise. The file is descriptive of who you were, under those conditions, at that age with those tools. It is prescriptive of absolutely nothing, but the mind runs it as prescription, because prediction is cheaper than becoming. And so every new opportunity gets checked against old data, and the old data says what old data always says. Stay put. You've been sentenced daily for years by a court that adjourned decades ago, using evidence about a defendant who no longer exists. And notice who never got to testify: the current you, the one with everything you've survived and learned since the file closed. He's never once been called to the stand, because the backward loop doesn't take new witnesses. It just rereads the drawer. And notice the file's cruelest feature: the one that guarantees waiting never works even when you do produce wins. The updating is rigged. One failure gets filed instantly, as policy, in permanent ink. 10 successes get filed as luck, as exceptions, as not really counting, pending further review. You've felt this. The presentation that went wrong 3 years ago still testifies against you weekly, while the 20 that went fine were never entered into evidence at all. The file isn't a neutral record with a lazy clerk. It's a hostile archive with an admissions policy, and the policy is bad news is data, good news is noise. Which means the plan of earning your way to a new self-image through accumulated proof was always doomed on procedure. The court doesn't accept your exhibits. That's why the judge has to go, not be persuaded. Picture the two men offered the same opening, same skills today, same resources today. The first consults the file, finds a 15-year-old failure and a father's offhand verdict, and declines, feeling responsible and mature about it. The second knows something the first doesn't, that the file has no jurisdiction, that who he was is data about the past, and not law about the future. And he accepts, feeling unqualified, and does it anyway, and the doing starts writing new pages. Same opening, one man was governed by a drawer, so here's the second directive. Take the 3 waiting rooms from move 1, and for each, find the actual source verdict. Who said it, or what event wrote it, and what year. Write the year down, then ask the only question that matters. Would I let a stranger from that year, with that information, make this decision for me today? You wouldn't, so stop letting him. The file gets demoted tonight, from judge to archive, and with the judge demoted, the bench is empty, which means someone new gets to rule. Here's the inversion. Move 3. Decide first and let the loop run the right direction. Here's the inverted loop, and notice it contains the exact same 4 parts. Decision, then action, then evidence, then belief. You decide the identity as an operating premise, not a conclusion. I am a disciplined man. Not I want to be, not I'm becoming, not I'll see if the data supports it. I am decided today, with the evidence file still empty. Then you act from the premise immediately, small and concrete. Then the actions pile up as evidence. Then the belief hardens on its own, months later, arriving not as a hope, but as a quiet observation of fact. The feeling you were waiting for, at the start of the old loop, shows up at the end of the new one, where it always actually lived. And before your inner skeptic files, the objection, let's have it out loud. Isn't this just lying to yourself? No, and here's the exact line between this and delusion. Delusion is a claim about evidence, insisting the file already says something it doesn't. A decision is a claim about direction, and it makes no statement about the file at all. The delusional man says I've proven it, the decided man says I've chosen it, and the proving starts at 6 tomorrow morning. One is faking a harvest, the other is planting a field, on the completely sober understanding that fields, once planted, grow. There's nothing mystical in the inversion, it's just the loop, run in the only order that was ever mechanically possible, since action is the sole manufacturer of evidence, and something has to authorize action before evidence exists. That something is the decision, it was always going to be the decision. The only question was whether you'd ever make it on purpose. Here's why the decision carries so much force, and it's the lock from the cold open. Identity guards belief. We proved that watching arguments fail. So the moment the identity is decided, the guard changes sides. The same stubborn machinery that used to defend I'm not that kind of man now defends I am. And it defends it the way identity always defends, automatically, at 4 in the morning, in the moments willpower isn't awake. Skipping the workout stops being a scheduling choice and becomes self-contradiction, and the mind hates self-contradiction more than it hates effort. You've stopped pushing a boulder and started falling downhill in the direction you chose. Machiavelli's founders, remember, brought decided character to their occasions. The decision was the weapon, fortune just supplied targets. So here's the third directive, and it's the hinge of the whole video. Pick one, not 3, one identity from your waiting rooms, and decide it tonight, out loud, alone in exactly these terms. I am a blank, present tense, no hedge, no becoming. Then, and this is the oath that separates it from a wish. Name the first act. Something the man you just declared would do within 24 hours, and schedule it before you sleep. Decision plus scheduled act. That pair is the entire inversion. Everything else in this video is just maintenance. Now stop, because I know what happened in some of you when I said say it out loud. And we're going to drag that thing into the light. You felt resistance, the words I am a, and then your throat tightened around the next word, and something in you said, who do you think you are? So here's the midpoint challenge, and it's the most revealing comment section this channel will ever have. Type the sentence, I am a, and then the identity you've been waiting years for permission to claim. That's it, post it. And pay attention to how physically hard it is to type, because that difficulty is the old file, defending its jurisdiction in real time. And every man scrolling past telling himself, this is silly, is a man the file just successfully sentenced again. The ones who type it will feel something shift, small but real, because a decision witnessed is a decision that costs something to abandon. So take a side, in public. Are you the man who types it, or the man who explains why he didn't? The comment section is about to sort you, and either way, you'll have learned something true. Stake on the table, before the engine, I think be realistic has buried more men than failure ever has. Failure at least teaches, realistic just amputates early politely, in advance. The engine below is how you stay unrealistic on schedule. Move 4. Build the evidence engine, because a decision without a manufacturing line behind it starves. Here's the vulnerability of the freshly decided identity, and you need to see it coming. For the first weeks, the new premise runs on nothing. The file is still full of the old man, the new pages are still blank, and every stumble gets seized by the old court as proof the whole decision was theatre. This is where nearly everyone's inversion dies, not from doubt, but from evidence starvation. So you don't leave evidence to chance. You manufacture it deliberately, daily, in the smallest verifiable denominations you can mint. The engine has 3 parts. First, the daily minimum, 1 act, every day, that only the decided man would do, sized so small that skipping it would be absurd. The disciplined man trains, so the minimum is 10 minutes, not 90, because the evidence value of a rep barely depends on its size, and depends entirely on its verifiability. Did the decided man show up today? Yes or no, binary, provable, filed. Second, the identity ledger. 30 seconds, every night, 1 line. What did I do today that the man I decided to be would do? Write the act down. You are literally building the new file, page by page, in your own handwriting. And in 6 weeks, you'll hold something the old court cannot argue with. A physical document of the new man, dated and continuous. And third, the self-promise vault, and this one is load-bearing. Every promise you make to yourself and keep is a deposit in the only reputation that matters here, your credibility with you. Every one you break is a withdrawal, and worse, it's evidence for the old file. So promise yourself less, exactly like you learned with your word to others, and keep it with the same iron, because the decided identity is, underneath everything, just a promise you're keeping to yourself in public view of your own mind. Here's the mechanism that makes small evidence outperform grand gestures, and you've seen it before in this series, wearing different clothes. Identity consolidates through frequency, not magnitude. One heroic week followed by collapse writes a page that says the old man had an episode. 200 small kept days write a file that says this is simply who he is, and the mind, which is always watching its own behavior for clues about what it is, eventually surrenders to the ledger. That surrender has a name. It's the belief you were waiting for at the very start, arriving by the only road that ever led to it. Picture the same decision, run through 2 men. Both declare the disciplined man on the same night. The first goes heroic, 2-hour sessions, total life overhaul, and on day 9, life happens. and the collapse writes the old story in bold. The second runs the engine, 10 minutes daily, 1 ledger line nightly. Promises kept small and total, and on day 9 life happens to him too, and the minimum survives it, because minimums survive almost anything. Day 200. The first man is back in the waiting room. The second man has a file, and the file has a verdict, and the verdict is him. And build the relapse protocol now, before you need it, because you will break character, and what you say, in the 10 seconds after the break, decides everything. The old file's move is ready and waiting. See, that's the real you. Your counter is 1 sentence, said flatly, without drama. That's not like me, and back to the minimum tomorrow. Notice what the sentence does. It files the lapse as an exception to the identity instead of evidence about it, which is exactly the privilege. The old file always granted your failures in reverse. Never miss twice, same law as always, but now it's not protecting a habit chain. It's protecting a verdict, miss once like a human, return like the man you decided to be, because he was never a man who didn't stumble. He was a man who filed stumbles correctly. So here's the 4th directive. Tonight, for the one identity you decided, set the 3 parts. The daily minimum, sized embarrassingly small, the 1-line ledger, kept where you'll see it, and 1 self-promise this week, minted small, kept perfectly. That's the engine. It runs on almost nothing, which is exactly why it never stops. And now the last move, the strangest one, because so far this has all been between you and you. But there's a third party in this machine, and it's been voting the whole time. Move 5. The world votes second, and here's the experiment that proves it. In 1968, the psychologist Robert Rosenthal and the school principal Lenore Jacobson ran a study that should be taught to every man alive. At an elementary school, they gave students a test, and then told the teachers that certain children, named specifically, had been identified as bloomers, kids on the verge of dramatic intellectual growth. The truth, those names were chosen completely at random. There was nothing special about those children, except a sentence spoken about them. Months later, the researchers came back and measured, and the randomly chosen bloomers had actually gained significantly more than their classmates, real gains, on real tests. Nothing had changed in the children. What changed was the expectation carried by the people around them, which quietly changed the treatment, the patience, the challenge, the attention, and the treatment manufactured the outcome. They called it the Pygmalion effect. An expectation planted in others grows into evidence. Now turn that machine toward your own life, because it's been running on you since birth, in both directions. The world does not treat you according to what you are. It treats you according to what it expects of you, and its treatment then manufactures the evidence, exactly like those teachers did. Present the world an undecided man, hedging, waiting, apologizing for taking up space, and the world files you accordingly and offers you the small role, the light challenge, the easy dismissal, and its offers become your evidence, and the file thickens. But present the world a decided man, and watch the machine reverse. People extend the benefit of the doubt to men who visibly know who they are. They route the opportunity, the trust, the harder problem, toward the one who carries himself like its natural owner. Not because they analyzed you, because expectation is lazy and contagious, and yours arrives first. The world, it turns out, is a Pygmalion machine that largely agrees with whoever decided first, and it has been agreeing with your old file for years, for exactly one reason. You never gave it anything else to agree with, and here's the sober edge, because this is the wolf, and we don't sell magic. The world's vote is second, not decisive, and it's slow. There will be weeks where the engine runs, the ledger fills, and the world still treats you like the old file. Fine, that's the lag, not the verdict. The same lag every founder Machiavelli studied walked through, holding a decided character in a world still reading yesterday's report. Virtue is precisely the ability to keep acting from the decision inside the lag. The occasion, remember, is just wind without the man. Be the man long enough, and the wind starts filling your sails, because the world reads persistence as identity, and identity, as you now know better than anyone, is the thing nobody argues with. One warning on how you present him, because there's a cheap version of this move and it fails in public. The decided man is a premise, not a costume. You don't announce him, don't narrate the transformation, don't buy his accessories and post his quotes. Because the world files announced identities under performance and waits correctly for the collapse. You change decisions, not declarations. Speak once in the meeting, with weight instead of never or constantly. Hold the standard when it costs something small. Let the room notice, on its own, that something is different, and refuse to explain what. The Pygmalion machine reads behavior, not press releases, and an unexplained change registers 10 times deeper than an announced one, because the room has to do the math itself, and people believe their own math. So here's the final directive, and it seals the whole system. From tomorrow, lead every room with the decided man, not as performance, but as premise. Speak from him in the meeting, carry him into the gym, the negotiation, the dinner. Let the world meet him early and often, and let the Pygmalion machine start manufacturing its half of your evidence, while your engine manufactures the other half, from both sides at once, until the file is so thick that even you stop checking it. That's not becoming someone else. That's finally issuing the verdict you had jurisdiction over the entire time. So run the 5 moves one last time. The backward loop, evidence before action, the deadlock that manufactures proof of the old you daily and bills you in years. The file, a drawer of expired verdicts running your life as law, demoted tonight from judge to archive. The inversion, decision then action then evidence then belief. The same 4 parts in the only order that was ever mechanically possible. The engine, daily minimums, the one-line ledger, promises to yourself, minted small and kept perfectly, frequency over magnitude, until the mind surrenders to its own record. And the world's vote, Rosenthal's machine, expectation manufacturing evidence, agreeing, as it always has, with whoever decides first. And the sentence some of you typed at the midpoint, I am a, and the word you'd been waiting years to claim. Understand what that was now. That wasn't a comment. That was the decision, witnessed, which is the only kind that holds. The ones who typed it have already started. The ones who didn't know exactly where the old file still rules, and knowing is the beginning of the demotion. Here's what changes across the next year if you run this. The waiting room's empty, one by one, because waiting was never a stage of becoming. It was the substitute for it. The strange fog of who am I really lifts, because that question was always upside down. Identity was never something you find under the old files. It's something you issue and then honor. And other people start describing you with the words you decided, months after you decided them, having no idea there was ever a decision, because to them, evidence is all there is. And by then, the evidence is everywhere. Machiavelli's founders were handed nothing but openings. No file, said Moses. No evidence, said Romulus. The verdict came first, from inside, and the world spent the rest of their lives agreeing. Yours works the same way, at whatever scale you choose, starting with 10 minutes tomorrow morning. Say it one more time, and mean it as a record. I decided first, past tense tonight. If this one flipped the loop for you, you're one of us now. Subscribe and stay close, because a decided man immediately meets the next trap, the oldest lie sold to working men. That effort is the currency of rising. It isn't. Position is. The next video is about why the hardest workers stay at the bottom of the hole they dig so well, why leverage beats labor every year of every life, and how to stop being paid for your hours and start being paid for your position. The ladder was never the game. Don't miss it. Demote the file, decide the man, run the engine, hold through the lag, and let the world do what it has always done, agree, eventually, completely, with whoever had the nerve to rule first.